All right. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Margaret Pinard and you're on BookTube. We're so excited because we're celebrating not only St. Patrick's Day, not only March of the Moderns, but today's special edition is a buddy read discussion with Lana ExLibris. So I just wanted to welcome her onto the channel and say thank you for coming and agreeing to do a buddy read. I know it's like dedicated time and everything, and it's a very busy month, so I appreciate that. And did you just want to say a couple words about your channel and what people will find there?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me on your channel, Margaret. This is an honor to be one of the people on your lives. And I am a booktuber. I read from a bunch of different genres. I do prefer mystery, and I really like historical fiction. I do have background in musical theater, so plays have a special part of my heart. So I'm very excited to discuss this today. On my channel, you'll find mostly vlogs and tags. I don't really review books because I struggle with the words. But if you're interested, come check me out. Hi, Rosie.
Yay, Rosie. Yay. Excellent. And I will say, I recorded, did I record? No, I did the notes for a tag. So I prepared for like a month ago, and it's been just pushed back and pushed back and pushed back because other things have precedence. But you're eventually going to see how much I love Lana's vlogs because they're my favorite and I rave about them. So, but I haven't been able to say it yet, which is kind of silly. So I'm saying it now and you'll hear it twice. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm going to put the thing up here that is the March of the Moderns buddy read. So it's a bit.ly. So you can't take it from the screen, but I'll put it in the chat in a second. Basically to let people know that these buddy reads that we're doing, it's mid-month, so maybe you have time to get in on one at the end of the month, or just catch up on the ones you've missed, because I've read 3 so far and I'm on my 4th, and they've all been spectacular. I don't know if it's just like the mood coinciding with the needing for escape or relief, but it's like sinking into like a feather bed or something. These books are so welcoming to me. This is an interesting one though. So, yes, when I had us starting out, I just had an initial question of what was your impression or, initial enjoyment level of Playboy of the Western World by John Millington Synge, Irish playwright.
I didn't know what to expect because the only other one that I read by him was Writers. Is it On the Sea or To the Sea? I don't remember.
To the Sea.
To the Sea. And the only thing I remembered from that play is that it's very dark. There's a lot of grief. It's not an easy read. So I was a little, not hesitant, but I was expecting something very heartfelt and very difficult. The first thing that threw me, the first thing that threw me off was the language, because I was expecting a certain speed of me reading, and I was slowed down so much because I just needed to look at the sentence for a long time. You're like, okay, this goes here and this goes here. And it was definitely not what I expected. By the end of the first act, I was just like, I don't even know where this is going. This is unlike anything I've read. It doesn't really have a structure that I'm used to. And even by the end of the act 3, I didn't know what's going to happen because it doesn't follow the usual play. What is that word? Arc. Yes. And the themes are all over the place as well. It wasn't like, oh, this is a play just about this. I was struggling to find, it could be about this. It could also be about this. There are so many things, so many elements. So this was definitely a doozy. But I enjoyed it. What about you?
I don't read a lot of plays, especially anymore. I did in college, but I'm definitely out of practice. So there was, in my copy at least, it has an introduction, and it also has a plenitude of the little notes, this is what it means. This is what, yeah.
I needed that.
You needed this copy because I find it I find myself compelled to look at those when the note comes up, and I'm like, I already knew that. Stop interrupting my reading, because this is right up my alley. This is the stuff that I research for my books and the kind of language that I adapt a little for modern audiences in my fiction. And so I was pretty comfortable with it, except for some of the, sentence reversals like you were pointing out. And so, yeah, the notes on here needed to be in your copy, apparently.
Yes, I just have like the naked text. That's all.
Yeah.
And then I kept like highlighting stuff that, I should probably look this up because this word has been around so many times and I still don't know what it is. I try to understand it from context, but every time
balderdash with it. Yeah.
But then I decided that if I'm going to look up every single thing I don't know, this will take me years and I will forget I was already distracted from the plot by the language. So I was trying to just get used to it and just move on and just get a sense of the scene and all of the characters.
Mm. Yeah, when I was reading, so I looked up on another site just more about J.M. Synge because I knew very little about him. He's middle class. They call it low church, which is kind of Protestant. So he wasn't of the same religion of the peasantry. And it highlights how much of a satire this was and how much it was not well received. So
yeah, there were riots. I read about the riots.
Yeah. But it also points out that he particularly went for the fanciful language because that was one of the things that he found so compelling and unique about this population in County Mayo. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so I liked diving into some of that, some of the phrasing and whatnot.
Yeah. And like the, not just the position, but the difference of the everyday language and that scene in the Act 3 with Begin and Christy, where he's, romancing her, like that was very different kind of language. And probably also, like, it really highlighted why she was so into him and why she was saying that I need someone who can talk to me like this.
Yeah.
Because it's very different. It was very interesting, seeing that difference.
Quite a contrast to her first suitor.
Oh God. Yeah, I was not expecting this to be so funny. And at some points I was like, is this supposed to be funny? Or am I reading this wrong? Because I was not expecting a funny play, but.
Yeah. What came to mind is the description of comical, tragical, and like trying to stuff all the things into one portrayal. The way they talk about the players' troupe in Hamlet, just like everything. And that's to me, it felt like very stuffed full of all these interesting things, and it made it funny. But yeah. So basic plot line for anyone who's interested to get a taste of the Irish theater. This is part of the Irish theater movement that was like mixed up with nationalism and especially with William Butler Yeats and Lady Gregory around the turn of the 20th century. And it's based on a true story of a guy that whacked his dad over the head with a shovel and killed him. And so Synge, the playwright, took this idea and worked on it like over and over and over and over. And he knew that he was going to transform this into some sort of commentary. And he was very specific about it. And there's multiple drafts like in whatever museum to show this. And so 1907 is when he published this and put it on. And 1898 is when the event happened. So like years and years of trying to wrap this around what he wanted to say, which I thought was very interesting. So that's the beginning story, and then he takes it into the context of a guy somewhere in Ireland hitting his dad over the head with a shovel, a loy in the local parlance, and like trying to get away from the scene of the crime. And so he's like walking and walking and walking, and he finds himself in some tiny rural town. And then what he does is like tell everyone in the town that this is what he did. And it has very unexpected results for a modern audience because they all start going, wow, well, it would take some sort of powerful man to do that instead of what you would think. So, and then things happen, and his fate sort of changes, and public opinion sort of flips and flops, and there's some interesting commentary. So, the next question. Well, I was going to ask about the comparison, but I think we should go into the Well, what should we go into next after laying the plot? I didn't think about the order too well. You were mentioning the structure, so maybe you have more to say about the structure of the play and the usual structure, because I was not as aware of the departure from the norm. I just was sort of like swept along with, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And so what can you tell us about that?
Well, I'm a little worried about being, the spokesperson for theater now. But what was interesting is that I didn't expect it all to be revolving around this one event and one thing, and have that thing not just influence the events and the way characters are, involved with this thing and how they react, but have this thing happen again and again and have it be received differently. So I don't feel comfortable saying what is the usual structure, because I don't know enough. I feel like, I've read a bunch of plays, but I feel like I need to read a way more to talk about the usual structure. But what I wasn't expecting is, because I was thinking that it would move on from there, and I was just, the talent of having just one thing and have a 3-act play, not just about this one thing and talking about this thing, but have this thing come back again and again. I don't know how to explain it, but if you read the play, what I mean, it's like the same thing happening again and again, but it being different every single time. And the character is not just reacting to the initial event and having everything stem from that, but what the action is stemming from is the character and their relations to, morality and what is right, what is wrong. That was something that I did not expect, because I was thinking something else will happen. Like, this was the initial premise. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It's character driven with a plot point as a quirk is kind of what it ended up being, or like a hot potato that they keep throwing back and forth. Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to think of other examples that would fit into the category you're describing, and I can't on the spot, of course.
Yeah, most things that I think of are, something happened and the whole play is we're discussing it and we're coming to, like, we feel differently about it every several scenes. Like, something changes in our perspective, but that initial event stays the same, and it's there, and we're just intellectually talking about it and emotionally going through it. And this was different, because this is not so much emotionally going through anything. It's not one or the other. It's kind of both. I don't know how to explain it. It was just not something I've read before.
Okay. What about the characters? So with these changing perceptions, did you have any feelings of the characters that changed over time that you didn't like, or then liked, or liked and then didn't like? Because I have
I was trying to pinpoint the character's motivation in the beginning. Like, okay, we meet this girl, 20-year-old girl, Pegeen. What's she about? What does she want? And like, we get a sense of that in the beginning, the way she reacts, what she does, what she says, but then she changes several times, and then I start questioning, oh, that probably wasn't her motivation in the beginning. She's about something else. And then the Widow Quinn is probably the most interesting character, because she just hops from one spot to the next. Like, she's not loyal to any thing. She just goes with the flow, and she changes tactics. And so that was very interesting, just trying to pinpoint, because I was thinking, oh, okay, this is this character in this play, she will play this part. And then just being thrown off course, because, oh, wait, she's not reacting the way I thought she would react. So character is definitely the biggest thing in this play. Which one did you find the most interesting?
Well, I'm very puzzled by the father man who comes. I'm like his discussion of so other people in the play try to manipulate his understanding and tell him he's crazy, gaslighting, and then at the end he makes a comment about, oh, I'm crazy again, and so that's one of those like, how is he finding his happiness in this? The sort of resolution of the play is puzzling to me. It's not a language I speak, so. Yeah, so that was
puzzling, definitely. Yeah, especially the moment he said, "Just let's go home." I'm like, really? What? You're just gonna go home?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely an unexpected character as well. Because then you think that you understand their motivation based on how you would act and how you perceive what the right thing to do and how humans would feel. Like, oh, if I feel like someone wanted to kill me, I probably will get away from them and I don't know, want to get my revenge and then move on. But here's a person who has a very different understanding of what's right, and he does the opposite of what I would do, and that those moments are interesting. And it's funny that this again, with plays that I'm used to, which are more contemporary, if a character does something like this, it is not necessarily like talked about, but it's part of the discussion, it's part of the theme. Here, it's not part of the theme. It's just, this is this character, this is who he is. This is not part of the idea of the play, which was also interesting because I'm used to these things, these like complexities of humanity being discussed more and being kind of picked apart in plays. And here it's just like, here he is. He's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I was not impressed with the character of Pegeen, Mike, because she seemed to poke a lot of things and make things happen and be like admired, but I didn't feel like she had much complexity. She's like the person who sees the target and changes and sort of trades up and then holds fast to that, and it just didn't seem very compelling in terms of like sympathizing and like striving with her to win her goal kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
it's like the way she was changing her mind every few scenes. Like even in the end, she was so mad, and I was like, "Yes, girl, he did you wrong." But then at the end, she misses him, and it warns his departure, and it's kind of like, where are your principles? Like choose one side and stick to it. Otherwise, you're sort of this floundering character. Then I don't know where to put you in. But yeah, I was so surprised to hear that this play elicited so many like all the riots. Even I was looking this up in America too, in Philadelphia. The whole company was arrested for putting it on like an immoral play, which was just like, I found that very interesting because to me it's just a weird, funny play. And
did they say why they found it immoral? Because the ones that I was reading were because of the mentions of words of like women standing in their shifts. And that was why. It wasn't that someone murdering their father was problematic. It was women in their shifts.
Of the 2019, 11, no. It just says that opening night in New York, hecklers booed, hissed, and threw vegetables and stink bombs.
Okay.
So they came prepared. They had vegetables with them.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that it was so upsetting to the nationalist because it portrayed an island not. I mean, I'm just going off what I've read that they didn't like the way Irish people were portrayed as immoral and people with. I don't know, just like even the way they treated crime in this play and how they went from side to side.
Flexible consciences, yes.
Yeah, gray characters, gray morality. And I found that interesting because I was thinking about how, like, even like I don't know if people know, I'm Russian, and as most Russian people, I like when people make fun of ourselves. And there are a lot of jokes about Russians and our traditions and how we are and how we behave, which are funny. But I can see why, if someone were to put a play or film that would make fun of Russians outside of Russia, that would be very offensive to me, because it's like, no, 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 you're not allowed to allow this.
You're right. Exactly.
Yeah, so I wonder if this is what happened to Synge, because he was from Dublin, I want to say. So like, I feel like he just wrote about people that, you know, were part of his country. But people
here's
were
the
upset
interesting
about
thing.
how it showed Irish people to the world.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here's the interesting thing. So okay. So we're both wearing green for St. Patrick's Day. I've got my Celtic earrings on. I was gonna step back and show off like the cool background, and then I forgot at the beginning there. So there you go. There's like the picture of the hills that you can't really see. So we'll just forget that. And I'm part Irish, and so I've visited, and I have family there, and I love the place, and I studied a fair amount of the history, and it's very vague in the background now, but what's interesting to me in this is that he was a middle-class Dublin suburb brought up Protestant, and the nationalist movement made some strange alliances in succeeding time periods. And so these people who are putting on the Abbey Theatre movement, I think, were for Irish Free State, but they were in a unique position relating to the mass peasantry that had been exploited for a long time. So it's like you're uniting with them for a political goal, but you also are not fetishizing, but like othering in certain ways for sure. And definitely being condescending. And like, there's a lot of interesting power dynamics. And the humor you bring up is a really good point, because some of the other booktubers that are native indigenous booktubers that I follow talk about native humor. And my impression of it, or my understanding of that, is that it's a lot to do with like death and like terrible things being treated lightly and flippantly, because what else can you do? And that's sort of how they survive and form bonds with other people, is through a lot of traumas, but a lot of like taking that on their own terms. And I feel like the Irish humor might be like kind of related to that, in that they've been through a lot of stuff. They've had a very uneasy relationship with a very close sort of related culture that's nearby. And it's not the same in tone, but I think there's a similar feel to that humor. And I don't know how it's shared between the Irish peasantry, which is like captured here in Synge's writing and style, and the Protestant middle-class theater goers. So when there were all these riots, like who was the audience? Who was rioting? Was it the Catholics? Was it the people who were being portrayed? Because I don't picture people from rural County Mayo going to the theater in Dublin. You know, it's not the actual people. I think it's probably people who are standing in for the movement and not wanting it to look bad by portraying what might actually be pretty close to the truth, but treated in an unsympathetic fashion. So,
yeah, because you would think that other middle-class Protestants wouldn't care. They'll be like, yeah, these are the people from the country that we're not interacting with, so show them however you want. So that's interesting. Yeah, it's a very blurry line, because sometimes, again, things that are okay in one context are not really okay in any other. And this is definitely like a weird position, like, because it's a funny play, and it's laughing at how weird humans are, and how we're not as like headfast in our beliefs and whatever. Like, it's all malleable depending on how charming the person is and what other people are thinking. We always are part of a crowd. It's not I believe this and I will be ostracized. Like, there's so many interesting things that he's looking at here, and definitely putting this in just, oh, these are these people in the country who are, we're gonna laugh at them, is definitely like a weird thing. But I've seen that there are a lot of adaptations that have been done, and the most recent one I think was in 2007, and it was about a Nigerian refugee coming to I'm gonna say London. I don't remember.
Wow.
And yeah, I would be interested in seeing that.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. A Nigerian coming to London. So, so would it be backwards? Would it be like someone who is escaping the London context and going to the country in England and then talking about it? Because that'd be really interesting.
Right? Because then it would make fun, not necessarily of a certain population of a certain little town, but make it like a general, here are like English people, for example, or I don't know, Americans. I'm not sure where this was put in. So
yeah, I'll definitely look that up. That sounds really good.
Yeah, my phone is acting up, so I can't look it up, but yeah.
Tell me about it. Phones, oh my God, the bane of the last 3 weeks I've been just struggling.
No. I'm sorry.
Okay, what about other
I have a question, sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I didn't look up what they mean when they say Playboy in this play. I just went with the flow. Do you have any context about that? Why was he called that?
Yeah, so every time I would shorten this, I put Playboy in my notes or on the computer. I'm like, I feel weird putting Playboy because it's like dirty magazine and not like what it actually means in 1907. And so I had to like write it out or something. But that's just me being prim. Playboy, the Western world. What I think they're saying when they call him a Playboy is that he is like an up-and-comer, a strong person, someone who has the pick of things that life has to offer.
Okay, that makes more sense.
like the Evelyn Waugh sense, like you've got leisure time and you're gonna do as you like. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What was your question? Sorry, I interrupted.
I was just gonna ask about other things. So when I was reading the beginning to the acts or the scenes or the stage direction, and I was trying to like remember when they write in stage direction, are they writing from the back of the stage or are they writing from the audience? Like things like that, because I was trying to work out the blocking and how it would work. And it seemed pretty contemporary in the way that you had a simple set. You've got one exit. You're always in this one place, and it's just sort of over a couple days, a few days.
Think so. Yeah. So there's two exits. There's also like the inner room as well.
Oh, right. The inner, right. An outdoor and an indoor. You're right.
Yeah, it took me a while to understand this is a tavern because I was like, why are there so many people who don't live here in this place?
Yeah.
Where are the owners? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't quite get the whole the rules about the 4 miles walking. Did you get that? So basically the thing they're talking about is the license to serve alcohol at the tavern. You can serve alcohol to people who have come more than 4 miles and be legal. And so they were at one point like threatening to inform on them because they were serving to people who hadn't walked 4 miles away. And like the girls weren't walking from 4 miles. They were tripping over someone else's field, but legally they could say they came this way, which was 4 miles. And like there were all these sorts of things that are set against the backdrop of like these punishing laws for people. And yeah, so it seemed a little needlessly complicated. But yeah.
Many things that they were discussing, they were talking about law, obviously, and crimes, and the things that they were focusing on the whole time. I was just like, this is the least of your problems right now. Why are you focusing on this? You have a killer in your house. But yeah, and I found that now they had a discussion, the men, they're like, well, you can't really arrest a person on something like if he informs on himself. Like it's fine. Yeah. Which I thought was so interesting. Like, what if they find the dad? Like,
a man can't hang by his own informing, and his father should be rotten by now. I actually like sticky note on that one. Yeah,
it's like, where's compassion here? Like, what? And considering how
did I freeze or did she freeze?
I think
there we go.
Am I back? Okay. As I said, I was expecting a lot more of the church in here because they're talking about morality, they're talking about, killing and stuff, and there wasn't a lot of it, which was interesting to me because I was expecting a lot more. And I forgot where I was going with this sentence.
It's a driver for the action, but it doesn't lay out judgments, right? So I feel like the church is present in a very weak character, like the first suitor, Sean. He is constantly harping on the fact that he's scared of the priests saying he's done wrong. So he doesn't want to step a toe outside the priest's possible, restrictions, because he really wants to marry Pegeen. So part of the conflict at the beginning is like, do you leave her at the house alone because the men are all going to a funeral, and should he stay with her? No, she wants him to stay, but he can't because he's afraid that he'll be outed by the priest and whatever. So they sort of move into that initial like, oh, there's a stranger, and who's the stranger and what's he doing and all that sort of stuff because of that. But the morality part is just like, you have to judge for yourself. What are these thinking?
Yes, it was very interesting. Because, I mean, this play is about, well, one of the things is about how we perceive, what is good, what is bad, what is punishable. And I would think having the church be such a big part of the society would be such an easy way in to discuss some juicy things. But no, it was juicy without it, though. So hats off to him.
Yeah, that's good.
And it was so interesting because I went to Wikipedia and I read the synopsis after I finished the play, just because I was like, I need to confirm that this is what I just read.
Totally. Right.
And
valid.
And the way it was like laid out super easy in a few sentences, it was like, oh yes, this is what I just read. Because the way people were reacting, it just was not making sense to me. Like, why are you trying to save him now? Or why are you suddenly against him? Like, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. But suddenly, you're all either happy or mad. And I thought that was very interesting.
I would disagree. I think Christy changes throughout because of other people's perception of him. So at the beginning, it's weird that people think that he's a great man for killing his father, right? As he spreads it around. It's weird that he tells people, and then it's weird that they admire him for it. So that's like two things where I just had to be like, okay, let's keep going. Let's see what comes of this. But then because they're building him up and, making it a good thing, he's kind of like, oh, yeah, and here I'll make a lovely, fanciful speech to this woman who I now fancy. And, oh, yes, let me participate in your amateur Olympic Games and, show everyone off. Show everyone up, I mean. And, yeah, so he like rises to the level of respect that people give him, which I think is interesting in terms of a bigger commentary for the play and the national schools of the Abbey Theater, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah. And then he chooses his own destiny at the end, which is going off with someone he formerly despised. Interesting.
Yeah, in the beginning, you're right. He is very timid and he doesn't want to say what he did. And they're all trying to guess, what did you do? And then when people start reacting positively, he's like, oh, cool. Oh, awesome. I can now do like, this is my new identity. I'll be the killer. His character was very perplexing to me because, again, like so many other people in this play, he kept not changing his mind, but changing the way he is and how he acts and what he does. And I was like, can any of you choose one side, please? And when he had this conversation with the widow as well, they had this whole conversation about loneliness. And then his father comes in and tells how he was so lazy and he wasn't like a good son and he was a terrible person. And then she tries to, there's just so many elements to him. And I was a little confused as to what I'm supposed to feel, because I mean, I didn't respect Christy before, but now that I know that he's lazy, am I supposed to now, like, it was written like a pivotal change, but I did not feel that change because I wasn't sure how to feel about him to this point. I don't know. That scene with the widow was very interesting. I feel like if I had more time and desire, I would definitely go in and analyze and find all the hidden things, the subtext. But just from like the initial read, there's just a lot of things that I didn't get from that. There's more. There's definitely more between the lines there.
Got it. Yeah.
I also didn't get what she said when she said that she destroyed her man. Was it ever specified? What did she do?
Say that again, for her former husbands?
Yeah, she several times said she destroyed her man. What does that mean?
I don't know.
And it was like never told. This is the mystery that I wanted. What did you do?
I assumed it was just like outliving them, because the man's peasant life was hard in those days. And yeah, I don't know.
There are so many points that are like, are we going to explore this now? Oh no, okay, it was just a comment.
Yeah. Your comment about how Christy is perceived, though. So in my head, and I'm not sure where I got this, but my flow of his character was that by the end, my impression was that he grew up in a family where there wasn't a lot of happiness and love, and so they just resented each other. He finally can't take it anymore, boshes his dad on the head, runs away, feels like bad about it, not sure what he's going to do, doesn't really have a grand plan, isn't really a strong character. But then because of this experience with the rural population and this sort of surprising twist where he's respected for this act, he has a better opinion of himself, and then but not any more self-awareness, because when it changes, he doesn't know what's happening or why, and can't argue for himself. He ends up, in a pickle, shall we say. And yeah, so he goes off still sort of like bravadoing, his swaggering at the end. And so I don't really think, well, let me go back. I don't know that any of that is objective, because we're getting it from his point of view and sort of mediating it via his dad's. So it's like, I don't know, is one of them right? Are they both like low characters without much of a self-awareness? And then there's the dad crazy thing, and I'm kind of like, well, what? I don't know.
No character growth at all. Basically, people just are reacting to something. But I just realized that maybe he and what was his name, Sean, the coward. They are like extremities in a way, because you have Christy, who is reckless. He doesn't seem like someone who, his dad describes him as lazy. He doesn't really want to work. He feels lonely. He's like this kind of very angsty emo kid, and he just wants love, and he's reckless. But then there's Sean, who is the opposite. He is so thoughtful. He's so considerate. He's the opposite of reckless, but to like an extreme end of that. And so you have two people who are both not really great, but we lean into liking Christy because his recklessness can be interpreted as, bravery and as standing up for something, while poor Sean just wants to go home. Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay. I was going to ask about comparing two Riders to the Sea. We talked a little bit about it being like more tragic, but did you have any other thoughts to expand upon that one, because you studied that earlier in the distant past?
A very distant past. Yes, I mean, I don't remember super well, but I do remember that one was very much about family, and it was about grief, and it was about fear and necessity, and having to, if people don't know, it's about a family who lives on the coast, and the way for them to have food and money is to go out to sea to fish. And there's like a family of a lot of sons and 2 daughters. First, the father goes out to sea and doesn't return, and then every single other son goes out as well, and there's only one left. And it's kind of like they want to keep him, the sisters and his mom, don't go because you're the only one left and we cannot handle another death in the family, but also we need to eat. And it's kind of like, and he feels like he needs to take care of them. Like it's all of these very difficult family themes. And there's a lot of grief. There are like news of a body being found, and they're all reacting different ways as to, oh my God, what if it's one of our brothers? It's what
they talk about his sock, right? Is how his sock was knitted a certain way so they can identify him. I love the concept of this historical trend where people, and this is an Irish sweater. This is also for the Irish readathon purposes. I got this in 1995, which impressed my friend Elizabeth not too long ago because that's how long I've kept it. It's like super baggy, but I still love it. But the way that they knitted their clothing for each other was so specific that they could tell, like if someone body washed up and they looked at the socks, they could say, oh, this is how I turned that. I'm not a knitter. I don't know what to call it. But yeah, I recognize this. This is the one I made for my brother, and like how heartrending that is to be, recognized.
Yeah, I actually don't remember how it ended, to be honest.
Death.
All around. So yeah, that was definitely a very, and like even just talking about it, you can like almost feel the atmosphere, like a small wooden house by the cold, windy sea. It's all like dark grays and blues, and the smell. Like I just, it's such a powerful visual or like a vibe of the play, and this one didn't really have that. This was definitely much more playful, and I feel like this is probably I can't say that I loved this play. I think if I were to rate it, I would give it like a 3-star because I feel like there are so many interesting elements that were not properly like sewed in. Like some things were just thrown to the wind, and we could have expanded on that, and it didn't feel like a what is the word I'm looking for? Yes.
Yeah.
It felt like funny things, but it wasn't fully baked. Baking metaphor.
I like
consistent is what I mean.
Yeah. So what's interesting is that Riders to the Sea, I think in 1898 was his first play, and Playboy, the Western World is 1907, and the last one he finished, I think. And so Riders to the Sea and the tragic nature and the intense emotion felt very earnest to me. It felt very like keyed up emotionally and saying something definite about this terrible situation that families are in to survive, and they have to choose between like family members dying from starvation or from the sea because like they're just between a rock and a hard place. Whereas Playboy, as stated by the title, is satire, and I don't do well with satire, so the statement that the person is making is less clear to me at the end, but I think it was very clear to the people who were writing. It must be something about the pureness of the country not being as you think it is, and there's more to it, and it's more subjective, and we interact with it, or we should. I'm not sure what it's saying. I'm just sort of like throwing things out here.
I feel like it's not really sure what it's saying either.
I mean, I feel like he must have been very sure because he went through 7 drafts of this, and people were saying the language is so perfect because he like chose his words so carefully to say things a certain way. And I'm like, oh, not 100 years later. Yeah.
I find interesting. I didn't know. So I knew that he was a playwright, obviously, but I didn't know that he was also a director at the Abbey Theatre, and he worked there for a while. And I almost feel like playwrights who are also directors must be better playwrights because like they know what it's like putting on a play and what actors need, because he obviously worked with actors. He knows how they work, what they need, and what the scene needs. But I was expecting a little more from this play. I don't know, maybe satire is also not my thing, or maybe the whole time I was thinking that maybe I'm just distracted by the language, and it's, if it were written in a like in a language that to me would be my everyday language, if it was like in Russian or something, maybe it would have hit different than me experiencing this as a very thematic play story based in a place that I've never been to, that I don't really understand. So I don't know how much that was how much that influenced my impression.
Mm.
I'm just looking at my notes.
So here was a cool theater thing that I thought. Like, I didn't look up too many commentaries, but that place where that you just mentioned, that a man can't hang by his own informing. Right after that, they have the scene where old man comes in. It says old man passes window slowly. And then they're talking about supposing a man's digging spuds in that field with a long spade. Supposing he flings up the two halves of that skull. What will be said then in the papers in the courts of law? And you have Philly and Jimmy, who are two characters we don't really know. They're just like men of the village. And they're sort of tossing back and forth ideas about graves and people in the ground. And you have the old man passing by the window. And I was like, are we doing like triple nods of the head to Hamlet, because this looks like the old king and these are grave diggers that are being funny? And I was like, yay!
Oh, interesting. I didn't even catch that.
Oh, I mean, I just could be reading that into it because I, have a certain lens, but yeah.
That's so cool. Even if he didn't intend to do that, I feel like we should say that he did, because this is awesome.
Yeah. Glory. You mentioned thematic things that you felt like weren't fully realized, and I wanted to get that to our like last points here. When I'm looking at literariness.org, and this had the most interesting sort of description and analysis to me. It said, in writing this play, Synge visited counties Kerry and Mayo. He gathered further materials for this work. Observations of the lonely landscapes of the western seaboard, which the setting doesn't play a big part here, I would say. I think that's more in Riders to the Sea. The moodiness and rebellious temperament of the people. And here I wanted to put a pin in that, discuss it, because that's very interesting and that's very like political to talk about. And then their religiosity, alcoholism, and fanciful language. And so those are the three like unique characteristics that are pinned on Synge and this play and sort of this time. And so I wanted to like dig into that a little.
Interesting.
But moodiness and rebellious temperament of the people. So I definitely saw this, and I like gloried in those little moments. The rebelliousness being like when they were coming over the fields to get some beer, because there's the rule about not serving beer. Things like not caring about what the priest says. Things like, I don't know, whatever other like little cheats they were making, or like little shaking of the fist to the government. I was like, yes, because
and like they talk about the police as also like another entity that they're not connected to them at all. So they can talk about this guy who killed his father and not really like, this is already. And also every time that Sean mentioned the priest, and everyone was just like, that also, there's definitely that feeling. And maybe they even liked the idea that, they're hanging out with this guy who's a criminal. Cool. Don't tell the priest, but cool.
Yeah.
No one's really scared of him too, which I found interesting.
Yeah. Oh, he presents as very harmless at the beginning. He's very happy to be the pot boy and like get a job so that he can just incognito slip into this setting and like, and there's a girlfriend that comes with the bargain. Hey, cool. Like, he's very unassuming at the beginning. So,
but also the way he talks about his father and why he killed him, it's all very much like, he was super mean to me. Like, I'm the underdog. I'm the person who's been oppressed. And they're all like, yeah, we get that. Which maybe reflects how they feel in a wider sense with the government or something.
Yeah. Oh, that's a
like,
big one. I
course
didn't
you
recognize
killed
that.
him. Like, duh. Good for
Yeah.
you.
Fling off that yoke of servitude. Like, that's good.
Yeah, wish we all could do that. That's
Yeah,
kind of how it feels.
that's really good.
And that's why they call him brave too. Like,
Mm.
oh, we can do that, but you did it. You're the champ.
Yeah, the champ, exactly. Oh, yeah.
But I didn't really, one of those that you mentioned was religion, and again, I didn't get as much sense of that. Because if he was trying to show through religion how they were so rebellious, he would have made like more of a point to it. I think more, there would be more of the church in it. I don't know. Again, it's one of the things that I feel like it could have been more fleshed out. If it just doesn't feel, I'm struggling with the words. Like the intention was not really there. It's like he put so much into the play. I feel like if there were less elements, it would have been clearer. Maybe because like I don't know, did he try to say something with the priest and with the church, or did he not? Like it's not clear.
Yeah, to me, the religiosity of the whole population is, I mean, it's probably more of an assumption on my part going in before the play, but I think what reinforces it is one, Sean with the priest comments all the time, but also the people saying it's not proper for someone to be alone at night, and that was Sean. And then when people come in, their greeting is like, God save you, or, you know, God keep your house. And there's like the normal interactions are infused with all this like assumption of God and the church being in the scene without like actually talking about their importance, which
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. I take it back.
No worries. No, I mean, no, subjective. This play is about subjectivity.
Yeah.
Moodiness, alcoholism, fanciful language. So I think, and this is a huge issue to take off like in the last 5 minutes for our discussion, but the accusation of being moody and fanciful and not concentrated on like the important things in life, like getting more money and getting more status, is the very British point of view in this history. I feel like. And so that was the very British view in this time period of 1900, saying like, they're all lazy cowards. Like, look at them. They don't know how to get on. We obviously have to do it for them, which is like the British imperialist view of the time. And so I feel like characterizing the population that way and pinpointing those pieces that reinforce that was an interesting choice for a nationalist. I don't know.
Interesting. I didn't even think of that because, I mean, the way they consume alcohol feels like normal amounts. I don't know. It did not stand out to me at all. Like, this is it's still normal today. I mean,
yeah,
but it's interesting that they would pinpoint that exactly.
Yeah, because those are the things that the British people would ridicule the Irish people for, is like the drinking and the superstition of the Catholic Church, and you know, being bards, being people who play with language but never get to like the real essence of hard work and sacrifice will get you far on the ladder. And it's like, not in the Empire. So not if you're, you know, certain surname and whatnot. So there are a lot of things to pick apart about this, but it's so short. It's like, yeah, it is a lot of stuff crammed into a very short amount of time.
I do have to say, though, with the fanciful language, that maybe, I mean, he shows how far you can go if you're a good storyteller. If you're a charming storyteller, you can get away with murder.
Christy does.
Yes.
The character. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's all about how he tells it, and everyone says like, "Oh, tell it again," and like the way he talks about it and the way he tells this story. And he obviously mentioned that he says it to every single person every 10 minutes. He's like, "By the way, this is what I did," and I feel like it's interesting that like that's a big point. Like this is the start of everything. It's how you tell a story can change everything. And I mean, I'm not super in the know of the Irish culture, but I do know that Irish people are famed for being great storytellers and the language. So in a way, he did showcase it and be like, look how powerful words are.
That's true. Yeah. The luck of, what is it? Not the luck of the Irish, the gift of gab is what they call it. The gift of gab. if you've kissed the Blarney Stone. I've kissed the Blarney Stone! So, yeah. Well, that's, I'm really glad I read it, and now I've read the whole book. So that's pretty exciting. I had the 2 plays in one. And you'll notice, let's see if I can get that. See, it's $2.99.
Nice.
Recycle 01, which means I picked this book up in San Jose in 2001. So it took me 20 years to read this tiny play.
Oh, plays are the hardest to pick up for some reason.
Sometimes, yeah. Oh my gosh.
But I'm so glad that I read this as well, because again, Riders to the Sea was the very first play that I participated in. This was back in Ukraine when I was in high school. Like, it's such a old memory, and I thought it was such an obscure thing, and it was kind of like in the past. I never think about this, and now to learn more about who he was as a playwright and read another play, it's kind of like a nice, coming back and retrieving those memories and putting more context into them. And it's kind of cool. The first play that I was part of was Irish. I didn't even know.
Cool. Yeah. I'm always here for that. Making people feel better about all the books they have on their TBR. Yeah. I've said it a couple times for tags and whatnot, how many books I have stashed away. And that's why I don't need hauls moment, because I have plenty to get through for sure.
And I did love the idea of reading like a scene, doing like a dramatic reading, but I'm glad that I didn't do it because the language again.
It would have been hard. Let's try. Let's try.
So wait.
Wish I'm saying, we'll take no fooling from your like at all. To Christy with a honeyed voice. And you, young fellow, you'd have a right to stop, I'm thinking, for we do our all and utmost to content your needs. Christy, overcome with wonder. And I'd be safe this place from the searching law? And it would be really hard.
I tried to read out loud for myself, trying to make an Irish accent, which I sound Jamaican. I don't know how.
You sound Jamaican. Oh, okay. Well, mine's pretty terrible. So it started out okay, and then I started cultivating Scottish accents, and then I can't go back. So I need a new mnemonic device to get into it. Whale oil be fucked. That's the one that I remember for the Irish, but it's different Irish accent than this. So
I actually found on YouTube a recording of a stage production, I think. And for some of it, I was listening while I was reading, and definitely just listening to it would not have been a good idea for me. I needed the words because, what did he just say? What's that word?
Wow, yeah.
But it's so beautiful. I love the Irish accent, and it's all not just in the pronunciation, not in just the way they pronounce certain letters. It's in the intonation. The melody of it is so fascinating.
Yeah. Good stuff. Makes
Thank you for including me in these.
Yeah. Thank you. So thank you, Lana. Let's put that one up. And then I just wanted to show people, I haven't put the progress up, but I think I have, let's see. Let's see. I've done 2, 3, and I don't know that I can put, I don't know that I could put Playboy anywhere.
I put it in the set in a cold place because it's not in a warm place.
Okay, there we go. So I'll put set it in a cold place to make my little bingo there. But it's not on my line, so I don't think it'll end up helping, but that's fine. So if you want to play the bingo or see if the books you read this month fulfill any of the prompts, I put in the chat the link to the Buddy Reads. My blog has the information for March of the Moderns, and I hope anyone who is participating is enjoying. This is a fabulous discussion with Lana, and thank you so much. I
Thank
don't
you.
have anything else to go out on except thank you and happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.